Okay, there's a little more introduction stuff, like you said. This slide deck, I think, is available for you guys if you want it. Talk a little bit about compliance. Everybody's pretty familiar with these regulatory agencies and security standards and things. PCI DSS for credit cards, JCO, of course, HIPAA, are a high-tech, e-discovery. You guys are probably dealing with those in one way or another all the time. Compliance is a wonderful place to start on the road to security, but like I was kind of joking earlier, it's a brick in the security building, but it won't keep the rain off of you. Like that. So I want to talk a little bit about the difference between security and compliance to start with, and I'm going to do that by giving you a couple of anecdotal situations that we actually have run into. Everybody knows what their compliance needs are. You have people that handle that, your compliance officers, your HIPAA officers, things like that. But for instance, how many of you guys, by a show of hands, are dealing with PCI DSS right now in your healthcare? Does everybody know what that is? No. So PCI DSS, you should know what that is, by the way. PCI DSS is Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard. So that's anywhere that you touch a credit card in your organization. A lot of organizations that I've dealt with in the past, before Exempla, thought that they didn't really take credit cards. And so you start talking to them about things like cafeteria, mother and baby shop, gift shops. Guess what? Those are all added up together, and you get an aggregate of all the transactions per year in all of those areas for your entire system, and that determines what level of PCI you are and what kind of steps you have to take to meet those requirements. It's not a legal requirement, but if you don't do it, the teeth in it are that they can take away your ability to take credit cards, which can really hurt you. So we had, by way of an example of the difference between security and compliance, we had a situation where at one of the healthcares there was a couple of registration machines out front, and they had card swipes on the side of it. You guys have probably seen this before. People walk up, they're going to register, give them a credit card, swipe the card, do the registration, enter in the EMR, and they're registered, they're ready to go. Those are in a kind of semi-protected area because there's people behind the desk, they're watching the swipes, and those particular two machines were adherent to the PCI DSS 12 rules. So they were isolated on a network of their own, they were protected in a variety of ways with IDS, IPS, they were behind a firewall, the data was encrypted, all the kinds of things that you have to do to meet the PCI DSS standard. So they were 100% compliant. When their QSA auditor came in, he gave them an A+ stamp, they're 100% good to go. Are they secure? They were not secure. Somebody came up with a skimmer. Anybody know what a skimmer is? You guys seen this on the news, right? A little plastic device that looks like the credit card swipe, fits over top of the existing credit card swipe, and you can't tell the difference. You don't know what you're looking at, looking really close. And what it does is when you pass the credit card through it, it swipes the credit card and passes it to the machine, so the machine thinks you just swiped the card normally, and it also makes a copy of all that magstripe data on a little chip in the skimmer. And a month later, the thief comes back at night, because those machines are sitting out in the open, and you kind of look around in HSS, the guards are not really looking, and you retrieve the little skimmer, and you take it, you put it in your car, and you take it home, you connect it to your machine, and you have a month's worth of credit card data that was swiped there at home for you to steal. Why would somebody do that? They would do that because those get monetized at the rate of about $100 a card on the black market, and it's not hard to do. So, if somebody does that and takes 1,000 credit cards at $100 a pop, that's pretty good incentive. What would that do to your healthcare? Well, a single breach at an organization that does a couple million transactions a year of credit card data can result in fines that range from $2 to $16 million. It's pretty significant. I don't know if you guys can absorb that, but I wouldn't want to go to my boss and explain. The second anecdotal incident was with complex passwords. Everybody probably has dealt with that or is going to deal with that. As we move forward with some of the other regulatory agencies and standards, HIPAA or a high-tech, we have to have complex passwords, right? Your auditors can come look at that. And they're going to want you to use 8 characters, some alphanumerics, some numbers, some letters, capitalized, upper lowercase, and perhaps some special characters, right? So if you do that, you're compliant. Your auditor's going to go A+, stamp of approval. You're compliant. Are you secure? No, you're not secure. It's a trick question. There are a group of people out there right now that have created what are called rainbow tables, and that is where they take very large, powerful computers like the Cray machines at New York University and other things, and in their spare time, they have them generate hashes for every known possible password up to a certain number of characters that there ever can be. So for instance, 16 characters with extended character set, alphanumerics, they generate a table that has the hash for every single possible combination of that, and it takes these massive computers that are super powerful with 256 quad-core processors in them. It takes them a year to do that, but they generate these multiple terabyte tables, and once they're generated and they're stored, then they can put a web front end into it, and so all you have to do is take the hash off one of those machines. The hash is the encrypted version of your password, and it's pretty easy to retrieve the hash because nobody protects it because it's encrypted. It should be safe. And they drop it into this little website and they say, query, go find this. And it looks across all those rainbow tables and it finds the one that matches yours, and it returns your password up to 16 characters with extended character set and alphanumerics in a matter of a minute and a half. So when you see those websites that say, put your password in here and see how hard it is and how long it'll take for it to get cracked, and it says 10 million years, that's technically true. But that's not how the thieves do it. The thieves put it in that little query, and it looks up this giant table that already has worked out all those hashes, and it provides them in a matter of minutes your password. I took my hardest 16-character password that I've ever used and plopped it in there, and it was a minute and 36 seconds for it to turn around and take the hash and give me back the password. So once again, compliant, but not secure. Everybody kind of understand the difference? I wanted to show you just a few of these, and I'm going to go through them quickly, but you can have this slide deck and look at them yourself. These are pulled straight out of Healthcare IT News, Breachblog, other places like that. This is the scariest one. Currently in Dayton, Ohio, there's a healthcare, St. Francis Healthcare. Their lawsuit, their fines, their total cost of this breach, $1.3 billion. Anybody want to raise their hand if your healthcare system can absorb a $1.3 billion hit? They're shutting down. They're going to walk away. They're going to sell those hospitals to somebody else. They can't do it. Here's another one. 1.7 million people affected, $350 million. A lot less than 1.3 billion, but we couldn't absorb that. 800,000 individuals affected, 9,000 individuals affected, 2,777, 1,500 patients, 200,000 patients, 6,000 patients, 1,800 patients, 12,000 patients. You get the idea. 18 years of data lost. Detroit Hospital laptop did not have proper security protections. This kind of thing just goes on and on and on. I pulled a few at the top, but you guys can go look. You've probably seen them. They're everywhere. There's hundreds of these breaches. So let's talk a minute. You heard me, or you see at the beginning slide where it said Red Team Pen Test Penetration Testing. You guys know what that is? I know some of you do. So this is how we go beyond compliance. When you're compliant to all those standards and to all those regulatory agencies, do you think the thief cares? He does care, actually. What he does is he says, oh, they're compliant. So here's the 12 steps of DSS that I know they're following. I'm sure not going to attack them that way. I'll attack them a different way. He has a roadmap to what you've done to secure your systems. So compliance, in a very perverse way, is helping the thief. The thief knows what you're doing to be compliant, and he's going to avoid those attacks. He's going to have an attack vector that doesn't include those compliance issues. Okay? So a red team penetration tester does an assessment on your systems where he acts like a thief. He or she acts like a real thief and perpetrates real-world attack vectors on your systems to see what really is vulnerable beyond your compliance. Okay? I want to show you a few examples of what red team pen testing can discover in real healthcare environments. I want to state up front, by way of disclaimer, that I do work with other health cares as well as Exempla and Sisters of Charity Leavenworth Health System. So a lot of these do not come from those environments. All right, so in one specific incident where I was doing a pen test red team assessment with a couple other people, we were able to walk up to a WOW cart in ED with no credentials, and I'm a weird looking guy. I would have stopped me. Nobody stopped me. As a matter of fact, the one guard that was standing there, I went up to him and said, "Hey, happy President's Day." And he goes, "Yeah, you too." And I walked right on by. Walked up to this WOW cart, acted like I knew what I was doing, jumped on it, and I was able to access several server shares. That's where your data is stored, out on your network. And I was able to harvest gigabytes of PHI and financial data, credit card data. Okay? No credentials, no badge, no uniform. Another one, these people actually knew I was coming. The point of contact kind of broke the rules and told his staff, you know, there's a guy that wears black and has big earrings and a mohawk, and he's weird looking, and he's going to come steal everything you have, so watch for him. Don't let him get to anything. So I went to the front door of the data center and pretended I was someone else, and they kind of were, guy with earrings, that must be that guy. And so they stopped me and questioned me, and they wanted me to sign in. So I signed in as the false identity that I was playing. And then they were about to let me in, and the other guy goes, "No, we were warned, we're supposed to call the boss." So he was going to call the director of that area. And I said, "Oh, I got a phone call, I'll be right back." And I left because I knew the jig was up with those guys. So I went around to the back, that back door over there that you see. And as I kind of looked at it, I saw it had a little alarm on it. But you could kind of look through that window, and I was like, it was a little iffy, but I thought, I'm going to see what this door goes to. Pick the lock. It was a little 2-pin lock. It took about 32 seconds to pick it. And when I walked in, it buzzed. It went, "Argh." But it was a Claxton on this alarm that was right by the door. And it's in a loud data center. And nobody's in the data center. They're out front. So I just dropped the magnet on that little sensor right there, and that shut off the alarm. Nobody heard anything. And I had free access to the data center. So I walked over to this rack of servers, and guess what? About 80 to 90% of them were logged in at the console as administrator. Guess what I had access to? This is one of my favorites ever. I went to a particular hospital that I was doing a red team assessment on, and they were surprisingly tight. They really, not only were they compliant, but their security controls were excellent. I kept looking for that hole, looking for the place where they were soft and I could come in and steal things. Their credit card processes were phenomenal. Everything was encrypted, everything was tight. They really guarded the information, things were in safes, their network was tight, it had IDS, IPS on it, all the controls you hope to see on the inside as well as the perimeter. It was a really good system, and I was about to give these guys an A+ on their report card. So I went back in and I started talking to the administrative lady, of course, pretending I'm supposed to be there and I'm with IT and working, and I'm like, "So where do you take those hard copy credit card things when you're done?" "Well, we put them in this safe." "This safe? Oh, that's a pretty nice safe." "Okay. And then what do you do with them?" "Well, then they go to the shed."
The what?
"Well, the shed." "Oh, could you show me the shed?" So we went out back of the hospital. You can't make this up. And about 300 yards from the hospital was the shed. A lovely wooden structure with a little bit of tin siding on it, with tractor oil accelerants all around the sides of it. Because if there was a fire, you'd want to really help it to get in there. And that open door that you see, the small door there, had a little lock kind of hanging on it. And I said, "I don't see any lights." "Well, no, it's not really lit. It's just a shed." "Well, you can't really see it from the hospital or the road." "Yeah, no, it's kind of, we just put our stuff in there." "Okay. Anybody come out here?" "Oh, yeah. They come out about once every 2 days. Somebody brings a box of stuff out." "Oh. No guards, no alarm or anything?" Nope, nothing like that." Come back that night to that door, and I was going to pick the lock. Unfortunately, you just jiggle the lock and it opened. Then inside the shed was the most beautifully arranged set of shelves I have ever seen that are perfectly labeled with a, and I can't make this up either, like a little Dewey Decimal System card catalog at the front.